What's up, my dudes? My name is Sister Turley, and this is my new custom track called Hawaii Hills. So it's about dang time I went in there and made another Hawaii vibe track. So with this track, I wanted to make it pretty easy, not too many crazy big ruts or bumps or humongous jumps that you had to hit perfectly on the 450 to clear all the way. Like, I wanted to make it just a little more simple, a little bit easier to learn, and something that catered more towards the intermediate and the beginner kind of rider. But don't get me wrong, there's still some jumps on this track that you got to hit wide open on the 450 to clear all the way, and keyword there is all the way. Like, there's multiple different landings on most of these jumps, so whether you're on a 450 or a 125, you still have some sort of landing to hit. It's not like some humongous crazy gap that you got to make sure you clear all the way. Meanwhile, kissing the dirt on that scrub right there, that jump is perfect for scrubbing on. So that was my biggest goal with this track, is just to make it fun for all skill level of riders and make it to where you could still vibe around the track. It's not like some crazy big double or triple or something like that. Most of these bigger jumps they just kind of flow down a hill or something, so you can either hit it in fifth gear wide open on a 450 and jump like 200 feet, or you can hit it half throttle on a 125 and you're still going to be able to flow down the hill. It's not like some crazy big jump that you got to make sure you clear or something like that. So that's really what I try to do with this track, and I know a lot of my older tracks had some crazy big jumps, so I wanted to tone it down a little bit for this track. And this track is also a little bit more on the smooth side. It's not like a super realistic rough rutted 1,000 ruts going up the face of a jump. I wanted to make it just a little more simple, and but it's still fun at the same time. It's not perfectly flat where you're just bored holding the gas down. It's definitely just, I know a lot of you beginner and intermediate riders will definitely like this track, but it's still fun for a pro rider because you can get going so much faster. So it's just fun like that. And a lot of these jumps, like this one right here, so you can huck it all the way to there, which is definitely a huck on a 450. And but you also have all that landing to hit if you're on a 250 or a 125, or if you're more of a beginner rider. So but yeah, man, just a fun track. Definitely the old school Hawaii kind of vibe. I know a lot of you guys are like, really, Spencer, another Hawaii track of all things that you could make? But man, when I get in that mood of making a track, I want to make a certain thing, and I have a lot of ideas. Definitely let me know in the comments section on some track ideas and stuff. I always look at them, but I have a lot of really cool ideas that nobody's made before. I just got to really sit down and put it into action. It's kind of hard to make something that nobody's ever even thought about making before. You know, it's kind of like, how do you even go about doing it? But I have some really cool ideas. I just got to really sit down and get the drive to make it all happen. So but for now, I just wanted to make a really fun motocross Hawaii kind of feeling. I just love Hawaii tracks. That's why I make them, man. They're straight up eye candy. Like, what looks better than paradise? I mean, this is basically heaven right here. So that's why I make a lot of Hawaii feeling tracks and space tracks, just because they're not normally done on motocross games. So I feel like they look so cool and they're so much fun. So but yeah, that was my biggest goal, is just making it simple enough to where you didn't have to stress out about some 300-foot double that you had to hit right out of a corner or something crazy like that on a 450. I know I've definitely had some tracks that had crazy jumps, and so I just had to really focus on toning it down. And that's hard to do when you're a pro rider trying to build a fun and challenging track, because what you think is fun and challenging seems, you know, godly impossible to a beginner rider. So you got to be really careful. You got to, even though something seems pretty easy, you got to just tone it down a little bit, so more so beginner and intermediate riders can still have fun on the track. And that's really what I try to do with this one. So it's got some fun elevation on it, and a lot of the lines are very equal whether you hit the inside or the outsides. Like, a lot of times the inside lines have kind of a knuckle on them to where it'll kind of slow you down a little bit, and a lot of times the outside, it might be a little bit more rough or something like that. You know, you always have a kind of a balance. There's positive and negatives to whether you're hitting the inside or the outside, and that's how most of these sections are. And so it gives you a lot of line choice. Even though there's not a whole lot of ruts on this track, you still, a lot of the corners are more so on the flat side. But the thing is, like I'm saying, there's knuckles to the inside, but if you go to the outside, you're spending more time to get to the outside, so you're losing a little bit of time. But if you take the inside, you got to hit that little knuckle, so it's challenging that way. So there's multiple lines. I know that, you know, it seems kind of weird thinking, well, there's not a lot of ruts, so there's probably not a lot of lines, but that's not really the case, because when you make a more of a smoother corner, you have so many options, because you really got to know how to use your brakes when it's like that. You can't just dive down in a rut going full blast. Like, you got to learn how to use your brakes. But when a lot of times people make like 2 or 3 ruts in the corners, and really it needs to have about 5 to have a lot of lines. So I mean, flat corners are really not that bad, because you can make multiple lines out of a flat corner when you have different options, and you know how to make them equal, whether it be the inside being more rough or the outside or whatever. And then you kind of you judge the distance it takes to get to the outside line versus the inside line, so you make the inside line a little more difficult or something like that. So let me actually go around and show you guys some of that. Like, for instance, let me just go around here like this. Okay, so the first corner, so you can go up the inside, okay, and then you can you got to really get on your brakes and slow all your momentum down and kind of jackknife into this corner, and then, so you can miss the water right there. Or if you have more of an outside gate, you can really hold the throttle down, and you have a little bit of a bank around here, but it takes longer to go around this way, and you also have to hit this water right here. So the water is actually slick on this track too, so it's kind of like going in mud. So that's kind of an option there. It really just depends on what gate you have for that, but that's kind of another element to it there, where you can kind of pick either inside or outside. And then right here, so you can go up the inside, but then you wouldn't have the right amount of speed to hook that jump all the way. So but you're saving time going to the inside, or you can go to the outside and then be able to hit the jump really good. So you have different options like that with this track, and nothing's too difficult as far as the jumps go. So that almost opens up even more lines, because you can kind of square up the inside. If you get just perfect traction, you can still hit the jump. So another instance is like this right here. You can see how there's kind of a little bit of a knuckle to the inside. So if you're trying to kind of cut that corner, kind of go to the inside of that corner to the right, then you would have to kind of hit that knuckle, and it would bounce you off the ground a little bit, and you wouldn't get as much momentum up the hill. But if you take the outside, you see it's a little bit smoother, and you can just flow up the hill, but you're not necessarily cutting that S corner as good. So there's just all different kinds of lines like that, and just a really fun track. So many landings on this jump right here. I mean, you can hit it anywhere from, no throttle on a 125 to full throttle on a 450, and you're going to have some sort of landing. I mean, you can kind of see it, just landings all over the place. And I just love tracks that they're not too difficult. They're just easy to flow on, and you get kind of in a weird rhythm when you're building a track where you accidentally make things a little bigger than they should be, because you've rode on it so much when you're making it that it doesn't seem all that hard or big. But when you get some brand new guy on the track and he's like, what the heck is this 500-foot, double jump up a hill? Like, I can't hit that unless I've done it 500 times like the track maker. You see what I'm saying? So you really got to be careful when you're doing that. But this corner right here, so you can either go up the inside and square that up, or you can go to the outside and there's more of a berm, but it also has more roughness and kickers on the edge of the berm on the outside. So you got all those different options, and yeah, man, there's just, you'll really start to learn some of the different kind of trick lines and options on this track once you ride on it more. But it's just a fun flowing elevation, nothing too crazy big to hit, and I think a lot of you guys are going to enjoy this track just because it's a little bit more on that just realistic, simple kind of design, not just some crazy big jump that would never be on a motocross track. I mean, those are always fun on some tracks, but I really got in a habit of making too many of those humongous jumps, so I just tried to chill out on that vibe a little bit and make something a little bit more simple to just flow around. So this track is a lot of fun for that. Got a nice double, and then you hit this kind of double over a tabletop, turns into kind of like a triple right there. So the only jump on this track that's a little bit bigger and a little bit more sketchy is this one right here. You can see where it's like a double over the water, and a little bit harder to hit. You might have to change your gearing just a little bit on a 125 to clear it all the way, but if you don't jump it all the way, you're going to land down there in the water, and it's just going to be slick. I mean, you can still land in it, but it's just going to be kind of difficult to ride in it. So, and even this puddle, little water puddle right here, it's actually slick as well. So you got to be careful there too. It almost has kind of a trail element to it where you got kind of slick sections in the water and stuff. So, but a lot of fun, man. Not too rough. Just that kind of medium difficulty, nothing too crazy, but I mean, beginners can still flow around the track, and they're not going to lose a ton of time on some crazy humongous jump. So anyways, I'll leave a link in the description to this track, and I appreciate all you watching these videos, and I'll keep on making them.